But yes, thank you so much for for taking time out. You imagine you're a very busy person. I guess, talking about Frankie Freako, we should start at, the beginning. And how does somebody dream up a story like this?
I mean, this kind of story comes pretty organically for me. You could say that the whole movie is a bit of a like metaphor for my life of avoiding real life problems by dipping into crazy fantasy universes. Not to get super heavy right off the top, but yeah, I mean, really, what happened was we were watching all the little monster movies out there. My DOP on the film, Pierce Dirks, was streaming like Ghoulies and Gremlins and Puppet Master, and we got into some like smaller, more obscure ones like that Full Moon did. Uh, and then yeah, like critters and basically just everything. And I just got completely overwhelmed with little monsters. And that was what sparked the idea of like, oh, maybe I'll make a movie like this. How hard could it be? My logic, my dumb logic at the time was, I was thinking about Psycho Goreman, how much work that was. And I was like, but those are full size people. If Frankie Freako, if everything is like a third the size, doesn't that technically mean it's a third of the problems? Like, was actually the math that I did in my head, where I was like, okay, well, maybe this is achievable and not a totally overly ambitious thing in any way. Um, so yeah, that's where it started. And it was very much inspired by Ghoulies Go to College. The energy of that movie, the nonsensical reality it exists in. I just remember thinking as I was watching it, like, they don't do this anymore. And I feel like it would really upset some people if a movie did this and delight others. And so that was my hope with this project, was like, I just wanted to make a thing that's like just as far away from modern genre movies as possible. And yeah, that's where it came from.
And as somebody who sort of, was born in the 80s and was brought up in a diet of, Labyrinth, Gremlins, Aliens, Critters, everything else, it's so awesome to still see, puppetry and practical effects, featuring in a film and, being used by filmmakers. What is it about, working in this way that excites you?
I mean, it's all I know. I feel like if I like Steve at like 13, if instead of starting to sculpt monsters was like, maybe I'll do these on the computer instead. Like, I feel like that Steve probably would still be pretty happy, but like the Steve that decided to sculpt, who I am currently, like, it's like a very tactile thing that I enjoy. Like, growing up, I was always doing arts and crafts and making shit. And like, my mom was always getting me to make little crafts and things. She's very artistic minded. And so, yeah, that like, I feel like the whole point of filmmaking for me is an excuse to make monsters and robots and like miniatures and just like build these fantasy worlds that I dream up in my head. It's half the fun of it to me is the making of it, because it's
Yeah.
just me, like, it's just Kid Steve making model kits but on a bigger scale. And instead of mashing around action figures, I'm mashing actors around. So same thing.
Nice. Again, sort of growing up in the era of like Biker Mice from Mars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. What I really love about, the Freakos is that they each have their own color palette, accessory, how much work went into their creation, and when is the toy range launching?
We're working on it. It's definitely a very, to use a George Lucas term, a very toyetic movie, in that every decision I was like, if I scaled this down and it was on a shelf at like Walmart or whatever, like, would it catch my eye as like now, or as a kid specifically? Like, would I go over and be like, I want to buy this boink. Like, he's got dynamite. That's cool. So yeah, a lot of thought went into like giving them unique personalities and like unique visual flair. I'm pulling a little bit from well, maybe not a little bit, probably quite a bit from the Puppet Master franchise, because I've always loved how those puppets, they all have their own personality, their own distinct look. They all feel like they came from their own movie. And so I wanted this to have that flavor as well, of like like everyone is distinct and interesting and stands on their own, but together they feel like a cohesive whole. So it was like they feel of the same universe, but they feel like they come from different neighborhoods of the same universe. And like that's the kind of stuff where I really have fun. Like that's my favorite thing to do, is to like build the mythology and the universes behind all this stuff. Uh, Knowing full well that it's only getting like teased on screen. But I think that's why this stuff works, is because you're, as an audience member, you're kind of just peeking through the window and seeing a bit of this universe, but not being, not living in it necessarily. So I feel like that's kind of where the magic comes from.
Yeah. And the film has, it's got the ultimate, odd couple pairing of, the square and the rocker. But I guess, in terms of filmmaking, I'm guessing that a lot of that dynamic is, it's just come from Connor himself because he doesn't have anybody to kind of act against.
Yes, yeah, he complains about that a lot, that during the movie, like, because when we're doing like an over the shoulder shot looking at him, it's like the puppet in the frame, like if you just feel their shoulder and the part of their head, like that puppet's not moving or talking or doing anything. It's literally just, and so Connor has to perform like he's like this in the frame, so he has to give his all and then some to like compensate for the fact that he's acting against basically nothing. And so I know it was tough for him to have to like bring that energy every day, especially with a character that is very like high strung and needed to sell like the immediacy and the threat of every situation. So I know it like took a lot out of Connor to kind of like perform against puppets. And he, you can even feel it in the movie. Anytime it's him and Adam or him and Christy, like they he definitely like relaxes a bit and is able to like bounce off of somebody more instead of essentially just like talking to a brick wall. So yeah, it was like a bit of a like learning curve for him, but I mean, I think that his performance speaks for itself. It's fantastic. It was the whole reason I made the movie. Was we were shooting a commercial for Psycho Goreman, a merch commercial, and it was just him talking to the camera, and it was just him like ad-libbing and just making shit up. And as we were doing that, I was like, I want a whole movie of just like bouncing ideas off of Connor and just like letting him do his thing, and I'll just build a world around that. And I know it'll like be funny. So yeah, it's like a lot of the movie works just because Connor's so good.
And I mean, Jennifer Connelly, she did Labyrinth acting primarily against puppets, and look at where her career's gone. So, Connor, he might complain, but, look where he could lead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I hope this does big things for him, but does I hope he gets to move on to a project where he gets to act against other actors and isn't just forced into acting against puppets for the rest of his acting career, because I think he needs a bit of a break from that.
Yeah. And in Psycho Gorman, you have poor little Alistair, poor little Alistair. Without spoilers, can audiences expect, any characters within Frankie Freako to maybe have a similar tragic fate?
uh maybe we, as I'm talking about now, realizing maybe there is a similar arc in the movie, but I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, I mean, it's, to me that's the fun of the movie, is that it's a very light, um kind of breezy movie, but dips into serious consequences occasionally. uh and I feel like they hit harder because everything seems so silly up until it's not. And so yeah, there's definitely a character that uh doesn't have a particularly glamorous fate in the movie, uh but he works through it.
Yeah. And both Frankie Freako and Psycho Gorman feel as though they're kind of crying out for a sequel. Would you ever be interested in sort of going back to either one of them or, crossover?
uh I was riffing the other day on an idea for a PG sequel where it's like PG's about to embark on some giant adventure. It's like a huge, like, Avengers level event, but then it gets completely derailed by the Freakos. Like they just show up and like, I don't know, pop his tires in his car, and then it just becomes a really small, contained, like chamber drama with PG up against the Freakos. Um, Not saying that's ever going to happen, but like that was the thing I was riffing on the other day. I would love to do sequels to both. Having the money, time, and energy to do them is the real hurdle. Talking to Matt, Connor, and Adam about a Frankie sequel idea, all of them are hard committed to it being worked into some sort of vacation because every movie I make is so grueling and time consuming and punishing for these guys. They need an excuse to just sit on a beach for 4 weeks. So I could see it being a Frankie goes to Hawaii type scenario where we just take the puppets to Hawaii and shoot a movie for a week and then just relax for the rest of the time. Uh,
Nice.
and you know what? I feel like the guys have earned it at this point, so I wouldn't be opposed to it.
And finally, while I have you, I have to ask, how's work going on Deathstalker?
It's going good. We're ramping up to shoot a few more scenes, and uh, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff around me from it. Like there's like all my movies, there's like gags and miniatures and things that I still need to shoot. So simultaneous to all this Frankie release stuff, I'm also prepping and building for more Deathstalker. But I can confirm that the movie is awesome. So I'm very excited for people to see it. It's just, yeah, we're kind of in the home stretch as far as shooting. Like, just got to pick up a few scenes and then do a bunch of effects stuff.
As a backer, I can't wait to see the finished product.
Sweet. I don't like to make guarantees, but I guarantee you're gonna enjoy this movie. It is. I think it's my favorite movie that I've made. It's
Nice,
really awesome.
nice. Well, I wish you best of luck with that, and best of luck with the Frankie Freako release.
Thank you very much.
And I believe you're coming over to Sheffield soon.
Yes, I'm supposed to be. Yeah, I think me, Adam, Matt, and Connor are all going to be out there.
Yes, I will be there too, so we can meet in person, and I can pick your brain a little bit more.
Awesome. I'm going to steal that Terminator Blu-ray from you probably. So watch out.
Cool. Well, I'm going to let you go and talk to some more people. But yes, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it was great chatting with you.